Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Today we're going to be talking about Baldur's Gate 3 and more mods that you can use to make your game feel, I would say, more fresh or just different than the normal vanilla playthrough. Now, technically, this is my third video involving mods with the final patch for Baldur's Gate 3, so if you haven't checked out the other two, maybe click on those if you feel like I'm missing a mod. But before we get started, if this is your first time with the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. We like to talk about fantasy games on this channel, mostly Baldur's Gate 3. Now, that's enough jibber jabber. Let's get started talking about some mods. Now, the first mod I want to talk about is called Better Hag Hair. And if you're like me in co-op runs, you get to this point with the hag and you make the deal where you just sit back and you let your other teammates get the hag's hair instead. Because, you know, you're just that type of selfless player. But the kick in the nuts about it is you give it to a certain player and then they end up respeccing into a class that doesn't even use that ability point anyways. So to avoid this becoming a therapy session for me on my co-op runs, let's talk about what this mod does. Now, what this mod will do is it'll give everybody the ability to add one ability point to whatever stat they want. In addition, this mod lets you remove that ability point and put it into another stat, for in the case if you do respec into another class that wouldn't use that ability point, or at least it wouldn't be like the optimal choice. So let's quickly head in game to check it out and see how it works. And yeah, if you're a paladin, maybe look away.
It's your choice, sweetness.
Looks like your days are numbered, hag. But if it's all the same, I'll save the girl and take the power. Hey, first try, baby.
You greedy little bollocks.
So the first thing we're going to get here is actually the ring. Marina is also yelling at us, so we're going to handle her real quick. So after we've made our choice with the hag here, you can see right here on our hotbar, we have the hag's boon. And very simply, you just click on it and you can add it to whatever ability stat you want. And for this, I'm a ranger. I will just pick dexterity real quick. And we got Auntie Ethel's boon, and our dexterity was increased by 1. Very nice. Now, normally that'd be the end of the story, but let's go to Shadowheart, and look, she's got the same ability too. And since she is a cleric, we will go with Wisdom. And we have Will in our party as well, and yes, he has the same ability. Now, lastly, with this mod, the last thing to really show off is the fact that, yeah, you can just remove the ability point that I had there, which was my dexterity added. Now we're down to 16. And we could add it to another stat. So really just a huge quality of life mod here, especially if you're somebody like me who usually sits out on getting the hag's hair boon, or you don't really even enter the debate. But that's it for this mod. Let's move on to the next one, which is pretty similar. Now, the next mod is just Better Potion of Everlasting Vigor. You pick this potion up in Act 2. There is a alchemist basically at Moonrise Tower. You bring Astarion and you convince him to give her his blood, and you will get this potion that will give you a +2 to your strength. So with this mod, very simply, if you consume that potion, everybody in your party will get that +2 strength. Unlike the Hags mod, it won't be like an ability on your hotbar. So let's quickly head in game and test this mod out so you can all see how it's working. So we're in game here. Just really quick, if you don't know where this vendor is, right in here, we're in Moonrise Tower in Act 2. So talk to her, make sure to have Astarion, and then make sure just to convince him to give her his vampire blood. So let's do that real quick.
I assume he belongs to you?
He does what I tell him, if that's what you mean. Yeah, Astarion, you're my bitch.
Good. Now, Astarion. I've dreamt of being bitten by a vampire since I was a young girl.
This girl would love the Vampire Diaries, I think. Don't be dramatic. Just bite her.
Incredible.
Now that the deed is done, we have the Potion of Everlasting Vigor. You can see our Tav here has 12 strength, and then Astarion here has 8 strength. So if we pop the potion, she has 14 now. We go over to Astarion, he has 10. So the mod is working as intended. Now, obviously, strength isn't everybody's first choice when it comes to increasing their ability stat, but strength is useful for everybody. Helps out your carrying capacity, your ability to shove, and also your jump. So that's it really to say on this mod. Let's go to the next one. Now, this next mod was brought to my attention by my buddy who I play co-op with that actually plays D&D with real-life friends, and he informed me that the 2024 version essentially adds ability points to all the other feats that usually don't give them. I wasn't aware of this because I don't have any friends to play D&D with. Anywho, so this next mod is called Adds Ability to Feats. So very simply, adds ability boost to all feats. This is nice because I feel like the default feat to always go to is like ability improvement. And this mod here will basically help alleviate, I would say, that pressure to pick that feat. Obviously, nobody's holding a gun to your head to pick that feat, but it is just kind of like a default good option. So this mod here will basically help me feel less guilty about picking something like Crossbow Expert, for example. But again, let's quickly head in game and show how it works. So we're in game here and we have respec basically. Now we're on level 4 for our first feat. You can see here, I mentioned Crossbow Expert. At the bottom there, it says +1 to dexterity. It usually doesn't do that. Another example here is your Magic Initiate. So if I pick Warlock here, you can see right here, you have Charisma +1. If you pick something like Wizard 1 instead, you'll have Intelligence +1. And depending on which feat you go with, so if I go with like Elemental Adept here, you'll have options of Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma instead. I believe if we go down to something like Sentinel, yeah, you have the ability to choose Strength or Dexterity. So this mod overall is kind of like just a little tiny buff across the board to all the feats that didn't usually have an ability point assigned to them. I really like this mod. I don't think I'm going to be having another playthrough unless it's like, you know, a completely vanilla playthrough. I don't think I'm going to have another playthrough where I don't bring this mod. So very cool, very handy, and I think we'll move on to the next one now. So the next mod I want to talk about is an equipment mod, and it's a pretty big one, or at least it has the option to be pretty big. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there is a mod author called Graphic Fade, and he has gone in and added class-specific gear sets into the game. So there are 12 mods to coincide with the 12 classes we have. For example, the one we're looking at now is called Faith and Fortitude, and this is the cleric equipment. Now, what I like about this mod is some classes in Baldur's Gate 3, they kind of get the short end of the stick when it comes to equipment that is basically designed for them. So this mod will essentially make sure every class is getting something that is tailored specifically for them. But you can't get these equipment mods just on their own, you have to get Fade's distribution as well. And so what Fade's equipment mod distribution will do is essentially just put these pieces of gear organically into the world depending on which act they're assigned to. Now, I don't want to go through all these items because I think this equipment mod here, it basically adds that element of exploration back to the game. So you're looting and looking at vendors. So if I showed off everything, that would kind of hurt that discoverability that I think this mod really thrives on. But we will head in game to show off one item so you guys kind of know what to be looking for. Now here we are in game, we're in Goblin Camp here, and some of these items are tied to vendors. So the item that he has here is the Shield of the Watchful Moon. Now technically this is a cleric shield, but this isn't like an overpowered item. It just basically means you can't be critically hit, which is really good. And I said that this is cleric based, but obviously anybody can equip this shield. And so what I like about these equipment mods are, again, they're tailored to, you know, your classes, but they add in more flavor into the game as far as your items. So if you're somebody who doesn't like randomizers and you're kind of bored of the base game's equipment, this is definitely a great mod for a fresh playthrough. So that's it for this one. Again, don't want to show off too much of it because again, I like the discoverability and I don't want to ruin that for anybody. So let's show off one more mod. And the last mod I want to show off is Transmogrification Lite. This will basically let you transmog your gear into whatever you want as long as you have the piece of equipment. The biggest example that comes to mind is all the paladins. They have some really cool starter gear that you get rid of pretty early on in Act 1, and it'd be really nice to carry them throughout the game and look like whatever paladin you have tied to whatever oath you've taken. Now currently this just works for pieces of equipment. It doesn't work for like weapons and shields and underwear. And that's important because you're going to see when we go in game, it actually has an option for weapons, but it doesn't work and it's not supported at the moment. So that may be an update down the line, but I think the base version here, as far as changing what piece of what your equipment gear looks like, it's completely worth it. Now here we are in game and we have this new ability Transmog and we have the Armor of Persistence on. So the way this works is you select it here and then you can take the appearance of anything that's on the ground. So we have the adamantite armor here. We're going to go ahead and take the appearance and you can see that, yeah, worked just like it said it would. We look like we are wearing the adamantite armor now. Stat wise, it is still basically the Armor of Persistence. Now, in addition to being able to take the appearance of whatever's on the ground, you can also just take its stats instead. So we have something like the Helldust armor here. We could just take its stats and now our stats are going to reflect that piece of armor. Now this is highly exploitable as far as you can have multiple pieces of armor that has the Helldust stats. So while personally I wouldn't be doing that in game because it kind of breaks my immersion, I would just be using the appearance feature of this mod. Just know if we take off this armor that we were currently transmogging and we put on something like the Armor of Persistence, the actual one we have, and then we go to steal the stats of the Helldust here. You can see that this has the Helldust armor stats, and then so does this. This also has the Helldust stats. And then the cherry on top is, yeah, it puts a copy of whatever you're transmogging into your equipment here. So you're not going to lose it forever. Again, I would just be using the appearance change with this mod, but just be aware you can also copy stats. But that is it for the video. Let me know what fun mods you guys are using. I know one that I really want to try is where it fixes the level curve, not fixes, but it increases the level cap to 20 instead. but I want to dedicate a full playthrough to that before I end up making a video on it and kind of talking about my feelings towards it. Also, I apologize, this video came out a lot later than I intended. There was a holiday weekend in the States, I had people over, and it just kind of pushed everything back. Kind of just something that couldn't be helped. But anyways, that's the video. If you made it this far, thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Peace, and take care.